Mr. Richard Nwankwo joins us next. He's of the Crusade for Justice to weigh in on this matter as well. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're hearing different comments now, but the impression that some people have about the judiciary in the light of this kind of case going on now seem to have been punctured. They just think, oh dear, not a good one for the judiciary. Do you share the same view?
Well, I think first and foremost we must appreciate the fact that Nigerians are entitled to their individual views and perspectives to what is going on. And secondly, I have every reason to disagree with that, because we believe, as a constitutional lawyer, we believe that the essence and the beauty of constitutional democracy is due process. And what is playing out presently is an unmitigated abuse of that process.
How do you mean that the judges were arrested for alleged corruption cases against them?
Well, of course you know that under Section 308 of our Constitution that they do not enjoy any immunity. But also you're also aware that there are inbuilt checks and balances within the political and the political framework. And I believe that the essence of these imputations into the system is to allow for a smooth running of the government. I also believe, and that has been the position in several other jurisdictions, that when there are allegations of this nature, of course the government has the right to wade in and investigate. But in doing that, we must not take away the fact that you have to fight within the confines of the provisions of the law.
So what would mean checks?
And I'm looking at these things from the point of view of what our law is saying. First of all, the deployment of DSS officers at that hour does not raise any good thing. It does not make any point on the side of the government. The reason being that these entire processes could have been carried out during the day. The government has the resources and the wherewithal to run a security ring around all these buildings and make sure that nobody moves, even till 10 a.m. Those things can be done. These judges have the right to dignity. And of course you know that the judicial framework is an entirely unique aspect of the political system. That once you take measures that are designed to dent that system, the implication will be very devastating, and that is what is playing out now. Because it appears there is an orchestrated trial going on. So how do we reconcile that? When you now see, when you see...
A minute here. Is there anything against the time by which they arrive at the homes of these judges? So let's talk about the timing. Is it hinged on law? At what time you can come in to effect an arrest or a search?
Well, what I am saying is that the arrest is not just the arrest of the judges. We are talking about an institution. It's a peculiar, there is a cloud, there is an aura that judiciary enjoys. And of course, I'm not in a position to say whether there is corruption or not, because the position is that there is no community without the judges. It is only natural that there will be corrupt judicial officers. The point I'm making is that there are inbuilt mechanisms. And of course, if you look at what is obtainable in other aspects of the governance, take for instance the Nigeria police. If there are very strong allegations against members of the police, you find out there is an in-house trial before the person comes out. And what is stifling?
Are you comparing that to the judiciary?
I'm talking about because the position is similar. What
you said the judiciary is unique.
It's unique, and I'm also talking about the national, the NJC, the Judicial Council, because the Judicial Council, of course, they have been receiving petitions on a regular basis, and they have been dealing with them. And the point I am making is that Judicial Council, even if the Judicial Council decides to investigate a particular case, and for instance the judge is dismissed, there is no law saying that they should not be prosecuted.
Yeah, but have you also looked at the fact that, look, it could also be that at the end of the day, these judges have cases to answer, because if they didn't, you won't even talk about the DSS approaching, let alone the manner or the time that they approached. Having said that, the judiciary is unique. Isn't that all the more reason why there should be stiffer penalty if there is any mention whatsoever of any judge said to have been corrupt?
I very much agree with you. In fact, of course, you know that the standards ought to be a lot higher than what we have in the civil society. The standard obtainable within the confines of the judicial framework should be a lot higher in terms of morality, in terms of integrity. But the point that I'm saying is that there is nothing wrong in fighting corruption within that enclave. But it is also important that you observe the principles of due process. And that will also give the impression that it's a level playing ground. I will give you some sarcastic dimensions to what is playing out now. Most of the investigations, most of the comments you hear about they recover this and the things that happened are fallouts of information we are receiving from DSS in a very, very disorderly manner. And of course, you saw one of the judges, Justice Okoro, if I'm not mistaken, has reacted to that.
Yeah, but you also heard that they said, look, why didn't this reaction come up early?
No,
you can't mention some case verbally
I'm talking,
to the CJ.
I'm talking about the letter.
Yeah, it's the same thing that
was done. There is, I don't see the sense in Justice Okoro coming out to tell the world that some
not the world, the CJN
coming out
petition,
to say
not verbally
coming out to say that some people came to influence a decision or a matter he was about to handle, and he said no. But the point I'm making is that there's an orchestrated media trial going on. The trial is already on in the media, and that is why that letter got to the media too. And I'm telling you from a deep, constitutional perspective, if you read that letter very, very well, you find out that it's only a question of time. Everybody's excited about these developments. We want a massive elimination of the bad eggs in the judicial system.
But
I'm saying that if you decide to try them in the media, there is every likelihood that they will also react, defend themselves in the media, and that is what is playing out. These things are very, very novel in our political equation.
When you speak about the perception that the people have about the judiciary, I know you say they're entitled to their opinion, but you also say that, look, justice must not just be done, it must be seen to have been done.
That's right.
But in this case, the public question is, look, we haven't seen the judiciary stand out to stamp out any suggestion whatsoever that there's corruption in the judiciary. Because if they look back at this letter, and many say, look, so assuming without considering that this actually transpired, would a judge then just verbally mention it to the CJN, and then only now you do a proper letter, which you could have done at that time? It leaves more questions.
Well, a lot of issues are coming up, but I'm telling you, I'm more interested, not just the fact that somebody approached him and he did say that, because that raises a moral issue. Is your interest in the impression that people have about the judiciary? But what I'm saying, I'm bothered about the role due process is playing in our very lives.
That's on the one hand.
Because that is the major thing, and that is why the Nigerian Bar Association came out forcefully.
Okay, that was why I asked about the timing. That was why I asked about the timing. Looking at the statutes, I wanted to ask, find out from you, who is a lawyer, about the timing. If we have it in our statutes, barring anyone from coming at a particular time to effect arrest, and if you put this side by side with what has just happened this week, recall also this week the case of the U.S. judge that has just been removed because of corruption and some other cases. So how do you put this with our own fight, looking at cleansing the judiciary?
You see, I think I've made this point that whatever this government has achieved in terms of the fight against judiciary could have still been achieved against corruption could have still been achieved within the framework of due process. That's the point we must emphasize, because there is a very, very deep jurisprudential relevance while these things are there, because these are checks and balances that are immersed in the Constitution to give a balanced and some measure of stability in the system. If you go down with an excavating machine to go and remove doors and windows and effect an arrest at that hour, my question and what most lawyers are worried about is the fact that, don't you think that the government could have done these things much later during the day, even during about 10 o'clock in the morning? Is there anything, is the government in a position to have lost anything? Because as you are infringing on due process, you are widening the platform for defense.
Don't you think that's emotional? Because the law permits them to go at any time.
No, but you are also widening the platform for defense. But like the letter, if you, from a very strong criminal law perspective, if you look at that letter written by Justice Okoro, I hope he's the one that wrote that letter. If you look at that letter, you know that the letter is an umbrella.
Granted, the letter is in the public domain, but about the question about the time that the warrant was effected, what is wrong with the time?
We're talking about due process. We're talking about the right to personal dignity.
So if I effect an arrest warrant or a search warrant at that point in time where the criminal justice act clearly says you can't,
the way and manner it was done.
So is it the time or the way and manner?
Both the time and the way and manner. We're talking about, listen, this has a lot of import in terms of our constitutional development. Because there is a culture, these things are conventional. The respect that is ascribable to that institution is conventional. There is no law that says you must respect the judge, you must respect this. It is convention. And we are saying that that convention is part of the due process.
Okay, now I get your point. I mean, you say lawyers concerned about due process. They don't want the process to be abused. Are you also bothered about the impression people have of the judiciary, assuming or if eventually it proves that they have cases to answer?
No, you see, I think you have to, if you're talking about impressions, there is even a more critical element to that, the issue of presumption of innocence. From the press releases made so far by DSS, they have destroyed the presumption of innocence, which is a constitutional provision.
On the point of what, the law or the minds of the public who are watching?
On the part of the judges that were arrested. So what I'm saying is that as you are bridging the due process platform, you are at the same time unwittingly expanding the platform for defense. That's the point I'm making.
Let's not forget, we'll go to Abuja in a moment, but let's not forget that this is not different from what we've seen in times past. You are, as a rights activist, we haven't heard this kind of hoopla from rights activists when it comes to breaking down of doors when you have a suspect to arrest. So why is this different, knowing full well that they don't have immunity as well?
Well, like I have said, we are talking about conventions. There is the judiciary is also a very strong, formidable arm of government. That judiciary is also, within the confines of the provision, is meant to be independent. And of course, if there are in-house, cleansing and disciplinary procedures, it is only natural that these things must be exploited. Okay. And you see the reaction of many people are talking about the DSS having power to do all this and do
you'll come back and respond to that in just a moment. Just pardon us. Don't go away.